Strap in, no small talk today. This is Macro Talk 2, and I have so much stuff I have to tell you about. I'm not even going to pause to say hello to Joseph or Russ or Nick or anybody. Talking about Russ. Did you know Russ Richards, our Russ Richards, has a YouTube channel? Yes, he does, and you need to go find it. It's Macro. I found it by going to Russ Richards Macro Video. You need to go there, you need to subscribe, and you need to like his first video, because it is fantastic. It is really, really well done. Bravo, Russ. Get over there, everybody, and check it out. Somebody you know through my channel, as well as through his channel, which is way bigger and more important than my channel, is Michael Waddell. I was told yesterday that Michael has hung up his macro gear in favor of a different area of concentration. I've written to him, haven't heard back yet. I'm sure I will. He always responds to my emails, but we need to find out what he's up to, and we need to support him in his new endeavor. So when you're over on YouTube, which you're actually on right now, but not right now because we're talking, but when we get done, check out Michael Waddell's new channel and support him, because he deserves it. He's one of the good guys. He really is. Do you know, when I do these intros before I come on, I actually am putting these songs on one at a time. I'm selecting them and putting them on, and I get PTSD every time I do it, because I used to do this for a living. Did you know that? I've never mentioned it. Before I did my doctorate stuff, I was a DJ on a big state, not state as in Russian, state as in Alabama, radio station, K99. Yeah, WVOK originally, then W something else. But yeah, I was a DJ, an actual DJ on there. I played music, and yeah, so I'm used to doing this manually. Yeah, now you know. I'll tell you a story about it, but I'll tell you next time, because I don't have enough time to talk about it now. This weekend coming up, Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning. I hope it's, yeah, it is 10 o'clock in the morning. After Stack, Parrot, and me, talking about post-production. And this guy, you know, he knows his post-production. So if you want to know anything about editing in macro, After Stack, this Saturday and every other Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning, okay? 10 till 11:30. If you saw me mention, or heard me mention, probably more likely, that we had a tangent coming up this weekend, I was having a transient ischemic event, and in fact it is next weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend, the 28th, okay? That's the next tangent. Relax, Larry. It's okay, I fixed it. Okay, so I've got one super important thing I want to talk about before we get into invention, which is going to be our topic today. This is so important because it's so important to the channel, it's so important to me, and it's so important to anybody out there who's watching this who's new to macro. I had a great idea this week, and I'm going to thank Susan Seaford for giving me this idea, but it's a combined effort. I've been asked many times, and have started to do this many times, catalog my back, not catalog, curate my back catalog, so that people who are new to macro can come along, they can come to my channel, and they can find out where to go to watch the best stuff that will help them learn what they need to learn as quickly as possible. Okay? Reasonable? I've started several times. It ends up eating up so much of my time, and I am probably about the worst possible person to ask to evaluate my own work, because I kind of thought it was all pretty good when I made it, or I wouldn't have made it, or at least I wouldn't have published it. But the fact is that some of it's good and some of it's not good. Some of it's useful and some of it's not useful. Here's what we're doing. I am kicking off what is called the AWP Essentials Project. This is a combined effort by a group of volunteers that have yet to be identified, you in other words, and a couple of directors, one of whom has been identified and has agreed to do this, Susan Seaford, and her co-director, who I have yet to get a confirmation from. Okay? So 2 directors and a group of volunteers are going to go through my content looking for the best 5, 10, however many videos or pieces of videos or written articles or sections of live streams, it doesn't matter, whatever content it is that taught you what you needed to know about field gear, focus stacking, mechanical focus rails, studio lighting, field lighting, light modifiers, insect preparation, composition, reflectors, flags and doohickeys, the studio rig. Doesn't matter. I'm going to make a list of about a dozen, maybe 10, depends how many volunteers we get. Each volunteer, or hopefully if we get enough, each group of volunteers, maybe 2 or 3 of you, will be assigned a particular area, say focus stacking, and your job will be to go. I've got 800 hours of content, not including the written stuff, that you don't have to go through all of it. Obviously, you'd know roughly where what you were looking for was. But these groups of volunteers are going to go and find those 5 or 6 or 10 or 12, however many pieces of content were most important in helping them learn that part of macro. They'll get with the directors, there'll be 2 directors, and they'll get with the group of volunteers for that subject, and they'll finalize the list and put it in order. The order, excuse me, of which is of most use to the newcomer. So starting with basic and then heading on through more complicated stuff. When that's all decided on, it comes to me and I will make a video in which you will get credit for being the volunteers that put this together. All I'll do is introduce the clips, and then anybody that's coming along in the future who wants to learn macro can go to this one playlist of mine, the AWP Essentials, and they'll be able to pick a subject and see just the best of the best. That sounded very conceited. I didn't mean it to sound conceited. The best of the okay stuff that I've done, all in one place. I think this is wonderful. If you want to be part of this, then you need to sign up by going to the Walls app, www. I'm losing my voice already because I'm excited. www.walls-app.com. Address your message to Susan, who is currently the sole director, and say, hey, Susan, I want to be part of this, but assign me to focus rails if you don't mind, or composition. This is where I'm most interested, you could say. As soon as we get the teams built, you have at it. You take as long as you want. There is no time commitment here. Nobody's going to be breathing down your neck. As you get your group of content together, you meet with the directors. I'm kept out of all of this. I shouldn't be part of this. This is your decision. When it's all finalized, they come to me, say, here you go, here's focus stacking. Here's your 10 clips, your 10 written bits, your best stuff. I'll then make a video. And in that video, give credit to you, give credit to my directors, and give them the content. That's it. You want to be part of it? Sign up for it. Do so today. The sooner you sign up, the more chance that you'll get the subject you want to get. If nobody signs up for it, it was a bad idea. Yeah, let's not even go there, shall we? The only requirements are that you believe in this as a good idea, number 1. Number 2, you've seen at least some of my old stuff. And number 3, that you have enough time to look at some of the old stuff you haven't seen. or read through it or read transcripts. Susan and the person whose name I won't say until I've talked to him or her will help you in every aspect of this. They've got a guidebook that I've written on what we're going to do. So, yeah, that's all you've got to do. If you want to be part of this, if you meet those 3 criteria, you're good to go. Think about it. If you want to help, if you want to be part of this channel forever, because these videos aren't going to go anywhere, sign up. Thank you. All right, other stuff. There's been a ton of talk about the Galois technique. The Galois technique of high-speed focus stacking with continuous light in the field. It was a sure thing that there would be a lot of discussion about this. There should be. It's very exciting. It's very interesting. But it is not without controversy and difficulty. Next week, we're going to talk on Tuesday about the Galois technique and some of the downsides, some of the problems that are cropping up as people try this technique. So we're going to take a deeper dive into a fantastic technique that my friend Klaus Galois has been working on. Klaus, relax. It's going to be very positive and it will reflect well on you. But we need to talk about some of the equipment and some of the issues that are popping up. Okay? Now, as I've ruined Tuesday's surprise, let me also ruin Thursday's surprise. We're going to talk on Thursday next week about a good photograph. What is a good photograph? Exactly what is a good photograph. Not what is a photograph that you like, but when somebody says to you, that is a good macro photograph, what exactly do they mean? Because sometimes we forget about that. And I think we need to have a discussion about it. So, what is a good photograph is going to be Thursday's discussion, and it's going to be killer. So, be here for that. All right. Many, many thanks to my friend Alan Rechtenwald, who sent me a lens I have been wanting to review for a long time. This is the Sigma 105 2.8 DG Macro HSV. HSM. What does a HSM stand for? No idea, but we'll find out. This is probably the most expensive third-party, not a Nikon, not a Canon, not a Sony, not a whatever, macro lens. And it has fantastic reviews, but some not so fantastic. And I now have the chance to try this lens out. So I'm going to be testing that over the next few days and doing a video review that will be coming out shortly. Talking about videos that are coming out shortly, you know what I'm doing next week that you're not? I'm talking for hours and hours and hours to Lester Lefkowitz, Volume 2. We're doing the second volume of his books, which if you haven't ordered, you're out of luck because I'm sure they're sold out by now. But Volume 2 of his fantastic manual on close-up and macro photography, that's what we're talking about when we get together next week. The video won't be out until right after Thanksgiving, but the way things go these days, time-wise, Thanksgiving is probably last week. I don't know. It will be soon when it comes out, but the conversation will be happening this week. So if you have any questions that you want me to ask Lester, WhatsApp, okay? WhatsApp messages to me, question for Lester in your subject, and send it to me. Because if I don't get it in the next couple of days, I won't get it. I am so looking forward to that discussion. He sent me an email the other day saying, I heard one of your live streams. Can you believe that Lester watches my live streams? They must not have much to do in Long Island, is all I can say. But he said, I heard you mention that there are some things that we disagree on and that we might get into a bit of a rumble. That's a New York term for fight, about things we disagree on. Would you tell me what those are so that I can be prepared? And I wrote him back and said, no, of course I'm not going to tell you what they are. We'll deal with them when they arise. So he's very, very nervous. So this will be a very, very good interview. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. All right. What else? I was going to show a couple of pictures that Alan sent me because I like them. So I have to bend my head in that odd direction to find them, and then I will open them. Alan is the kind of guy that when he sees the discussion I had with Klaus Galoy at the weekend about using high-speed focus stacking, he immediately wants to go out and build the ultimate machine to do that. So he did, and I want to show it to you, and I want to show you some of the pictures. So yeah, I probably should find a way to make that picture bigger. There isn't a way to make it bigger, so that's good enough. So this is Alan's setup. It looks to me like a 105 Nikon, but he's put a focus follower on it, which is fantastic. He's got one of my RM75 small rig lights on there on a bendy arm, very clever. So that's his setup. Like it a lot. That's it from the back. Does look usable, doesn't it? And that's the light. It's not a small rig, is it? It's an Olanzi. Yeah, also good. Look, you can press that button and it turns sideways. Here's one of his pictures. I love this picture. Bit dark, but that's my screen that's doing that. That's a very mean-looking praying mantis, isn't it? Love that picture. Somebody asked me, "Hey, Alan, where do you live now?" That's where I live, on the other side of that bridge, or this bridge. Some of them are in focus, even. This was with my phone. I was just trying to find a decent shot to take. That's the town I live in, Pretoria, South Africa. Okay, all right, so moving on. I think that's everything. Have I covered everything? No, there's one other thing. A question that I get asked with surprising frequency is, why is it when I'm doing a live stream and Rick Littlefield comes on, he sounds so much better than everybody else? This is a really good question. It's because of that thing he wears on his head. And I asked him last night, what is that thing you wear on your head? And it's called the Playtronics 202580-01. Personally, if I was Playtronics, I would have somebody in the staff come up with a different name for it than that. I think it's a terrible name, but that's what it is. I'll put a link in the program notes. Actually, I'll put a link in the article on my website, and you can order one of the 9 that are left, because I ordered one of them, and there are just 9 left. They're $200, but they're on sale refurbished for only $30. So I bought one, and there are 9 left. So it's the Playtronics 202580-01, and that's why he sounds so clear and crisp, and you can understand what he's saying. I just thought I'd throw that in there because so many people ask me about it. What's the difference between innovation and invention? We talked about it a bit the other day. Invention, or innovation I should say, is where we modify and improve upon existing technology or techniques. And there's a lot of grey area between the two where you could argue that, well, that's an innovation rather than an invention. But generally speaking, according to the dictionary anyway, when we talk about inventions, we're talking about something that is brand new, something that has been, you've dreamt up. It's not an improvement on something else, it's your own idea. There are lots of examples of inventions that people have come up with that have made macro photography more interesting and more accessible. And we've talked about them many times. The first one, of course, as always, I checked my list with ChatGPT, and she came back with basically the same list, though she always moves focus stacking software to the top of the list. I have a theory about that. I think she knows that Rick and I are friends, and that she puts this at the top of the list to ingratiate me. I think that's my theory. Do you think whatchamacallit, what is it called? AI, that's right. Artificial intelligence is smart enough to try to trick me with something like that. I think it is. But that's one of the first inventions. It was invented quite a bit before Xerine, quite a bit before Helicon. There are people who have been stacking images with various programs for quite some time. Probably reasonable to say it's more of an innovative process than an invention, but either way, that's the first. Macro flash, or basically any flash that uses BTs. Yeah. What is it? Insulated, gated, bipolar transistor something or others. The stuff you have in the little lights that I use, the MF12s, that allow you to cut off the power to the flash so much faster using the switching technology of these transistors. That's an invention. And that was an invention that has given more to my macro than any other. You use these big studio lights that don't use those transistors, and you basically have to wait for the light to flash on and then fade away before you can take the next picture. And it causes problems with all kinds of motion artifact and other things. So these super fast gated transistors, great invention. Reversing rings. Who would ever have thought that would classify as an invention? But nobody ever thought about finding a way to screw a lens backwards onto a camera until somebody thought, well, put focus rings on one end and the bayonet on the other, and Bob's your uncle. It's exactly what they did. That's an invention, and that's impressive because reversing lenses allow us to make macro lenses out of the standard lenses we have on the shelf. So brilliant there. Same with extension tubes. You theoretically decide that moving the lens further away from the camera will allow you to get closer to small subjects and make them appear larger on the sensor. That's all good and well, but until somebody took an empty tube and put a bayonet on one end and a lens mount on the other, we didn't have a way to do that. But that we do now. High resolution sensors. I think we've gone a bit bonkers with the resolution of sensors. I mean, there are limits to how useful extra megapixels are. Once your photo sites get so small, there's only room for one photon. But without getting into that, having high resolution sensors allowed us to crop in ways we couldn't crop before, to make really acceptable macro photographs with the equipment that we already had, without having to invest in super expensive optics, like infinity corrected microscope objectives. They weren't invented for macro photography. Just every microscope that you buy today has infinity corrected microscope objectives, but we adopted them, and I guess you could call that an invention for us. But infinity corrected optics have allowed us to take pictures at very high magnifications with incredible clarity. Of course, we couldn't have done any of that did we not have macro rails. And by macro rails, when I think about inventions, I'm not so much thinking about the rack and pinion cranky ones that we first buy. I'm thinking more about the mechanized ones, the Novaflex rails, the Wii Macro rails, the stack shot rails. That's a cool invention. That really opened up macro to all of us. Tilt shift lenses weren't invented for macro. They weren't even invented for product photography. They were invented for using where perspective becomes really important, like buildings and interiors, where you just can't have these weird lines. You've got to get everything kind of on the same focal plane. It just so happens that if you put a macro lens on that, you can end up with some really creative photographs using an angled plane of focus so that you can get more of your subject in focus. So, cool invention, not for us, but we took it over. Something ChatGPT does which irritates me is no matter what I ask for her help with in putting together a list of things, she always puts telecentric lenses in there. Always. If I was to ask what are the best shoes that I could buy for hiking in the woods, telecentric lenses would be choice number 10. She wouldn't suggest how they would fit on my feet or anything, but she'd list them. So she's listed telecentric lenses as an important invention. You don't use them. I don't use them. Yeah, I think it's unnecessary. All right, invention. So these are a few examples of invention. What I want to talk to you now about, and what I think is most important and most fun, and we don't have nearly enough time to cover it in the kind of detail I'd like to. Maybe this is something we could do in a workshop. But I want to talk to you about the process of invention. I come up with ideas that I think would be valuable to the macro community almost every day. It turns out most of them have already been invented by somebody else, or there's already a product out there, but not all by any means. A lot of the things that I come up with I would consider quite legitimately new ideas. And it occurred to me the other day as I was scribbling some notes on the subject, what exactly are the steps in going from having an idea that you think is cool and could be useful to other macro photographers to, say, selling it? Or you don't have to go that far, maybe just making it for other people. But there are so many things you have to think about before your cool idea can become a thing that I thought, yeah, let's talk about that. It's something that I enjoy so much, yet I have never taken anything from my idea beyond something that I use myself. Well, that's not true. I make stuff that I then give to other people and they use, so that's maybe a step further down the road. But what are the steps in taking something from the inside of your head to the inside of a shop? That was an interesting illusion, wasn't it? I don't want anybody to take anything physically from the inside of their head anywhere. Just leave all that where it is. So the process involves having a core concept. It begins with a core concept. It can be as vague as you need it to be. Okay. A thumb just appeared on my computer screen. Does anybody know what caused that to happen? That is brand new. I've never seen that happen. A cartoon thumb just appeared in the middle of my computer screen and disappeared. That was very weird. I've never seen that before. Okay, so you have a core concept. It can be vague, it can be specific, it doesn't matter. But the first thing you need to do is validate that concept. For example, before you spend a penny, not in the English sense of the word, which means go to the toilet, because it used to cost a penny to get into the... You don't care. Okay, all right, okay, fair enough. The initial validation means before you invest any resources into this invention of yours, you need to put together some ideas in sketches possibly, or in words, and you need to check it with a few people that you trust who understand the process and say, what do you think? Do you think this sounds... Do you really think that there is a market for me to make jet engines out of seagulls' feathers, for example, one of my inventions? And there's a good chance most knowledgeable friends of yours would say, no, that's pretty ridiculous, Alan. Skip that one, move on to another one. So that initial validation will at least give you permission to move on a little further. So find peers, fellow enthusiasts who can listen to what you're offering, and then give you some kind of feedback. Market research. If you're planning on this going all the way to a product that you're going to sell, find out if somebody's already invented it. Find out if somebody's already selling it. Find out if Walmart has a sale on it this week. If you don't know that up front, and it's amazing how reluctant, how resistant we are to doing that. I think because we don't want anybody to burst our balloon. We've had this brilliant idea. The last thing we want is to go to the Walmart website and see the thing on sale this week for $10. We want to believe that this is our unique idea, but we have to shatter through that, and we have to find, by whatever means we can, if somebody's already done this, because otherwise you are wasting your time. The second group of things you need to do is a feasibility study. That's basically saying, is the idea something that you can realistically implement with the technology that is available, with the materials that are available? You may have an idea that's, absolutely, you could build your own telecentric lens system for use in your home studio. No problem. The technology is there. The feasibility study would point out to you that the particular optics that you would need to do that would cost more than your house, maybe. So all of a sudden it becomes less feasible. Certainly doable, but less feasible. Maybe you're like me and you have absolutely no knowledge of optics. Then building such a system with no knowledge, may sound good in a fairy tale, but it's not feasible. You need to have the resources, the technical understanding, the abilities, or at least the access to those things before an idea can become feasible. Then you need to do a cost analysis. What does it cost to go from this idea to this product? And unless you have had inventions taken to a product in the past, you have no idea what those costs are going to be. So get some help in figuring that out. There are consultants that can help you with that. If you can't afford the consultant to help you with that, don't worry. You can't afford to take the product to market either, because that's an expense that you really need to understand. You need to understand manufacturing costs, development, research, manufacturing, production, distribution. All of that comes with costs. If you're inventing this thing that you're going to sell for $5 that costs $500 to make and $5 million to distribute, forget about it. Do your legal research early on during this feasibility study. Is my new macro lens something that I can sell as my new macro lens if it has an identical optical formula to Nikon's new macro lens? Get a lawyer to help you with that. They will look at your drawings and look at your plans, and they'll help you determine whether or not you're infringing on somebody else's patents or copyrights in doing whatever it is you're planning on doing. Do it early. File for a patent application early. The process of doing that will tell you whether or not you're crossing any lines. The next stage, you've got the idea. The idea appears to be okay. Your lawyer says, yep, sounds okay to me. Your friends have not left you over it. It's time to build a prototype. A prototype can be anything. It is a mock-up of the final device. It should have enough functionality to be able to replicate the behavior of the final invention, but it should also be made from reasonably inexpensive off-the-shelf type of parts. If you have to buy a nuclear reactor to get the chemical you need to do your prototype, It's not really a prototype. Go with something close that will also allow you to show other people what this thing does. It's a way of validating not just the idea, but the approach to building the idea. Go through the process of iterative development, which you've heard me talk about ad nauseum in developing my cross-polarizing platform for crystal photography. That was iterative to the point of being torture, because I made 20 different versions of this device, each one improving on the bits that weren't working on the ones before. And that is part of the inventive process. You have to refine it, and it's painful because every prototype you build is going to fail in some way, and this constant having to improve upon your failures wears you out after time. Nobody's ever invented anything where the first version of it was what worked. Part of iterative development is testing it and getting feedback. Now, I sent out my first dozen or so cross-polarizers to friends. They are using them. I spent 2 hours on the phone this week already with a couple of people going over every single thing on their punch list that they thought could be improved upon. They're no longer my friends. I'll never talk to them again, but I do now have a list of 10 things that I could improve upon for the next go-around. So that's part of the process, testing and feedback. Whenever you invent something, you need to be cognizant of the fact that other people are going to try to steal it from you. And to the extent that it's a good invention, that is the extent to which they'll try to steal it. The better the invention, the more people are going to want to take it from you. Get a patent filed early. You can file for relatively little a patent application that protects you for, I think, 5 years. I'm not a lawyer, don't take that as fact. But there is an application process. If you're in Europe, I'm sure it's different. But the sooner you get something down on paper and you get it filed with your patent office, whatever government agency handles it, the more protection that you have. And if this turns out to be... My dad, totally different subject, my dad used to be in the business of industrial packaging, whatever that is. He never did tell me what it was, but he had a friend from Germany who invented this piece of wire, a soft piece of wire with paper glued to either side of it. So you've got a strip of paper with a piece of wire in the middle, and you would take sections of this and you would wrap it around, say, a plastic bag and twist it. Yeah. This German friend of my dad's asked if my dad wanted to be part of that invention, and my dad said, "That's ridiculous." Well, yeah, it's a twisty tie. This dude invented the twisty tie, but he never filed for a patent for it. He never got protection for it, and within a couple of years, everybody and their uncle was making twisty ties, and he was getting zero for it. So you never know when your bit of bendy wire and paper is going to be the next big thing. So file a patent. It doesn't cost anything. Trademark it if you want. Anything that you do along those lines costs you money to do, adds protection to what you have. Get a good lawyer. If what you're doing is a more of an intellectual property thing, then get a copyright. If it's a creative technique that you invent. If, for example, your name is Klaus Galoy and you invent the Galoy technique, yeah, you might want to copyright that or even trademark it. Yeah, too late though. I've already copied it, so yeah. But it was a good example. Once you get to the point that you've got all these protections in place, you've tested the thing, you're through making prototypes, you need to then come up from your best prototype, checking the time, we're doing good, you need to come up with your design for manufacture, which is different from your design for a prototype. a prototype can be made from whatever you have lying around. It just needs to convey the message of what this thing is going to do. You're using it to demonstrate that it works. A design for manufacture is altogether different. That has to be something that can be manufactured in a cost-effective way so that it can be packaged and sold in numbers. Now, a design for manufacture, if you're talking about a Bolt robot arm, for example, or is it Volt? Bolt, I think. The thing that shoots up and down the rails photographing product stuff, the robot I'm talking about, where they only made one of them, or 10 of them, something like that. Your prototype and your design for manufacture are probably fairly similar, but if what you're making is going to be made by the millions, you need to make sure that your manufactured design is cost effective, using materials that are available, and something that you can control the quality of very accurately. So coming up with a good design and then identifying who your manufacturers will be. I designed and helped develop a product last year that never went to market, but one of the things that we had to do was identify the manufacturer that we wanted to use. You can find manufacturers in every country on the planet that will offer you all kinds of different prices, who will deliver products of all kinds of different quality. You read in the newspaper all the time about washing machine companies that have moved their manufacturing offshore. Personally, the idea of making washing machines offshore in the sea doesn't make any sense to me at all, but apparently people were doing that. So find manufacturers that can both see your vision, can agree with what you're doing, and produce the product that you're going to be proud of and willing to sell. So you have to balance cost with their cost, the cost of the product you're selling with the cost that you're going to be charged to make it. And then refining the technique. This is more if it's a technique-based invention. Refine it and continue to refine it. It's an ongoing process. You never stop. You've got to remember that other people are always going to be, from the minute your product comes out, they're going to be reverse engineering it to try to build their own version of it, and they're going to be innovating on it. They're going to try to make a better version of what you've made. If you want your invention to be successful, you need to be innovating on your own invention, and you need to be improving upon your own processes from the get-go. As soon as you sit back and start counting the dollar bills that are rolling in, 5, 7 at a time, you're sunk. You've got to constantly be refining your techniques, your processes, your costs. You have to develop a business model, and this is another thing that I'm listing it later in the process. It's really something that should happen sooner and continuously, is you need to identify who is your target market. Who is going to buy your macro lens? Not many fishmongers will need these, right? Not many shoe repair experts will need these. Some, admittedly, but not many. You need to know who your market is. If your market consists of only 100 people in the whole world, like my market does, then you need to know that up front. For one thing, you don't want to make 100 million of these things unless you're going to be able to sell 1 million to each of your customers. So knowing the target market, who they are, what demographic they fit in, how much disposable income they have, can they afford this thing? Do the research on your target market. We talked about market research earlier, but understanding what the target market can bear in terms of costs will help you determine how much you want to spend on making this thing. This is going to get a bit into the business side, but you really need to also figure out what your flow of revenue looks like, because you aren't going to be able to make these things without a factory, which has to be on a piece of land, which has to be staffed by human beings, or starting next week, just robots. But all of these things have costs. When the things roll off the end of the assembly line, they have to be put in trucks by robots, driven to the shops by robots, and then sold in the retail shops by robots. So you need to figure all of that in and understand what your revenue model looks like. It's all good and well to say, they cost $100, I sell 100 of them a week, that's $10,000 a week, I'm golden. No, you're not. Not if it costs you $10,800 a month to pay the robots. You're going to lose money. And you need to know that before you start. So having a revenue model that makes sense, this is where you get an accountant, by the way, to help you do this, because they understand money. You need a marketing strategy. Unless you're doing a YouTube macro photography channel, in which case you just rely on your brilliance being all the marketing you need to let people know you have a product out there. And that is not free. Not by any means. Now, you could come to me and give me one of your product, and I might talk about it. I might ridicule it, but I might say glowing things about it. That would be marketing. It would have cost you relatively little. But if you want to have a billboard in Times Square telling people about your product, which will reach more people than my channel by a factor of 2 maybe, you're going to have to pay for it. A lot. So you have to figure that in. Beta testing, as opposed to just having your friends try it out, is really, really important. The whole pre-launch process, once you've got all of these things in place, you've got a facility making your product and getting it ready for market, you need to find out what the market is going to do with your product. And that is what pre-production or beta testing is all about. You need to give to people, preferably knowledgeable people, experienced people within the field, who will use your product. You need to give them one of your products and say, excuse me, madam, would you please try this out and tell me what you think? Yes, you can make a video of it if you have to, but you see this from my perspective, but think about it from the perspective of the manufacturer. This is beta. What I do is beta testing. I will try out this Sigma lens, and I will tell you everything I find out about it. And if you've done a good job of producing a good quality lens, what I say will reflect that. And that is an important part of the process of inventing, is having in place a way to accumulate feedback from as many people as you can at as little cost as you can. Product launch. Having a strategy in place to make everybody aware that you're getting ready to launch a product. This is where the internet becomes invaluable, where you can get as much attention as you can from as many people as you can to let them know that this exciting thing is on the way, so that they can anticipate it and be ready to buy it when it comes out. Super important. It may be that your product is really boring, and the only way that you can move it off the shelves is to use professionals that are experts in sales, and you actually have to go to an organization that will sell the product for you. Most of the stuff I invent, I would never think of that because I would try to sell it myself, because it would be something I'd know about. But if it's something that you're trying to sell to a specific group of industries or people, getting help from professionals in sales is part of the process. No matter what you sell, no matter how brilliant your design and how well conceived it is, how well made it is, how well marketed it is, if you don't have a system in place to support it after the sale, your business will wither on the vine. No product that is worth its salt goes to market without having a way to support it, because somebody is going to think that it was supposed to be run off 220 volts and they're going to stick it in the wrong kind of plug and blow the thing up and call you, and you have to be there to answer, and you have to be there to help people get the most out of your product. And if you don't, your invention is only partially complete. Part of your invention is, how do you update it? How do you make it more current for the next round of manufacture? 55% of the people have told you that you needed to have a little red tab on that part of the device. Well, the next damn version of it needs to have a red tab on that part of the device. They've told you that's what they want. That's an important part of an invention. Scaling and iteration is really, I think, beyond the scope of this. But as you develop a product, you need to be thinking about what comes next. How do you make this available to more people? How do you broaden the target audience? And how do you improve the product to appeal to more people? It's difficult, and it really, I could talk for an hour about how you position yourself to think about that. But I'm going to skip ahead to the last thing on my list before I run out of time. And that is building a community around your product. My product is teaching people how to do macro photography. It's not really a product that fits well in a package, but that's really what I'm selling. People that come to my shop to buy my product or watch my videos are doing so on the expectation that they're going to learn something, hopefully about macro photography. Maybe not today, but usually. A level of recognition has to build around that if you're going to grow your audience. There'll be a core group of people that are already out there looking for you. There's a group of you out there now that are looking for a younger, more attractive version of me to teach you how to do macro photography. And when that person shows up, you'll find them right away. But that person's job is then going to be to build recognition and community around what he or she is doing to take more of my audience away from me. And that's really, really important. I have the strongest community I could, way beyond anything I could have imagined having when I started this process. I knew that there would be some people who would like me because, according to my mother, I'm fairly likable. While she was alive, she said that. She doesn't say it anymore. And that some people would like me. I'm aware of the fact that what I was going to be giving you was of value, because I did lots of research and it was hard work, and I knew that some of you would value that. So I knew that a community would build. I just didn't think it would be this big. And finding ways to do that are crucial to making this product exist into the future. And recognition just comes from the fact that you were right all along, and the product that you came up with is legitimate and real and gives value to your customers. And as people recognize that, they'll start asking for it, and people you've never heard of before will be looking for your product. And that ultimately is the end game. is to come up with a product that is so good that people recognize its value and a community builds around it. Just look at any big company look at the Nikon community. Look at what Nikon has done with their awesome products over decades of hard work. They're recognizable just from the color gold and the letter N. Anywhere you see it, you know that's Nikon. And they have millions of dedicated fans. And that is ultimately what you're aiming for. That's how you invent stuff. And that's probably way more information than you wanted on it, but it is something I'm passionate about. I don't really have any desire to actually invent anything to give to the world. Unless some brilliant idea occurs to me. It's just I think it's a fascinating process, and I've been involved in certain parts of it before, and it's just not well understood. But I know a lot of you are very creative and are probably thinking up ideas all along. I didn't come up with this list and present it this way to put you off following your dream to invent something. Not at all. I just want you to succeed, and the best way for you to succeed is to know what all is involved, and it's a lot of stuff. If you want to know more about this, obviously this will become a video, and it'll have a transcript that will break it down so you can see the various topics I talked about, but I'll probably write a short article on this as well in case anybody's interested. If you are interested in becoming a volunteer in the AWP Essentials project, you need to sign up for it, and we'll be in touch. I don't think we'll turn anybody away, well, except Joseph. Joseph, are you going to sign up for this? I'm sorry, I'm kidding. Of course, we would never turn away Joseph. So let me get back onto my main page to see if anybody's still here. Yes, people are still here, and I'm going to read a couple of comments in the few minutes that I have left. 3 minutes that I have left. It was incredible, says Larry. I know what he's talking about. He's talking about Russ's video, because that's what I said about it too. Let me see. Borderland Peppers is back in town after being gone for ages, twice in a week. Good for you, Borderland. Glad you made it back. Joseph is guessing, just guessing now, that a substantial number of pepper breeders end up hospitalized for aspiration pneumonia. That sounds like a bet that I would probably take from Joseph. Yeah. I love hot peppers. I think they're delicious. Russ Richards. Have I already told you about his channel? I know I have. You need to go check it out, everybody. Michelle is here. Gary is here. Larry is here. Those 10 people just do chitter chat back and forth the whole time. Did they hear anything I said about invention? Probably not. Crispy B, I need to find out how to find your email. I'm glad you're here today. I meant to go looking for you. If you could, using some code or other, put in the chat how I'm supposed to find you in the email so I can find the email you sent me. That would be great. All right. You know, me trying to figure out what is being said in this like 1.5 mile long stack of chats, it's impossible. I can't do it. I'm sure it's all very, very cool and very flattering. But yeah. It's always funny when Alan tries to jump in the middle of weird conversations. You know what? It's not. It may be funny for you. It's seriously disconcerting for me, because I don't know what in the heck you're talking about. But I'm glad it's funny for you, definitely. Borderland, are you going to send me some peppers to try? I think you should. I consider myself something of an aficionado on the things. They are healthy, and they if you eat too many of them before you die, you feel good because of the endorphins. Yep. Okay, I'm going to jump right into the middle of this conversation because it's addressed to me. Nope, Alan, says Russ. We have to watch it again. Absolutely no idea what you're talking about, but there you go. Who's going to volunteer? Zeno says most of us can multitask, listening to Alan and maintaining the chat. I agree. You certainly can. I can't. I can't read the chat and also concentrate. It's 3 p.m. I am going out to christen the Sigma 105 f2.8. Take some pictures and see what kind of lens we're dealing with. I know it's a great lens, but I'm really looking forward to trying it out. So thank you again, Alan, for making that possible. Emily, haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're here. That's it. Everybody's saying goodbye and thumbs up. There was one thing I was going to ask. You know what? I'll ask it next week. So get in touch if you're interested in doing the volunteer thing. It's actually gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, it will be, and you'll be famous. I'll make sure that you're famous if you help me do it. Okay, everybody, take care. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Sayonara, or Auf Wiedersehen for my German friends. Is that how you say it?